Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it, do it, do it. Let's look at the brain and talk about our brain and the planes of the brain. Yes. I think we will. I think so. Do I have a music? Hello, Cantic. Hi, Jersey Gold. Hi, Raven. We are looking at the brain, 3 different parts of the brain that help us orient to reality. The visual cortex, our auditory cortex, and a structure called the corpus callosum. And they align to different planes. Like, we actually do have a 3D brain. So I wanted to just bring this forward so we can look at how complex the brain is, but also how simple it can be to contemplate experiencing these different aspects of our brain. And this one I think is the most important, the corpus callosum. Thank you for fires, Smiley. Thank you. So my name's Katie, if we haven't yet met. It was Katie before we met, but it's definitely Katie now. And what I did is I've designed a system called neuroaffective somatics that combines Western neuroscience and Eastern mysticism. Yes, please ask me your question. Love to hear it. Especially now that CERN created gold out of lead, because this is the inner landscape that does that alchemy in our bodies. But I'm just waiting for Smiley's question. And please ask me any questions that you have. Jack is here, and Jada, and Olivia, Patty. All right, well, we'll wait for the question. And I guess I have where did I learn all of this? So I work for myself, which is why I'm encouraging you to buy my stuff. And I learned this through school. I went to Carnegie Mellon. I have a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon. I learned it through work. So I was a neural net data ethics, big data person, long time ago. I've been in the realm of the alchemy for decades, absolute decades. Then, my friends, I had a stroke and then cancer by myself, and put a whole bunch of puzzle pieces together. So that's where I learned it. And I would love to work for a company. I am currently not working for a company. For some reason, they don't want disabled people. I don't know why. Do I have the future of biodigital convergence? I have looked at something called transhumanism, which is a way of contemplating humans being transhuman, but I don't know what have I shared anything on the body being bioelectric? I would argue all of this is bioelectric. My model does include a whole treatment of electromagnetism. The books that I've written, the somatics book is very much about your body. And then I just wrote a book on divination that I'm looking for in my environment that does have stuff on electromagnetism. Let me grab it. It's a real small one. It's nice and simple. It's a way to do, the body electric is a fun one. I own that book. Yeah. So here's electromagnetism. And also, so in this visualization, here we're looking at the visual cortex, auditory cortex, and this structure called the corpus callosum. Here it's showing to you as colors. This is electromagnetic spectrum, alchemy and consciousness. And I just bundled this and my neuroaffective somatics book together. I'm calling it 2 books, 1 library. So you get digital copies of the books and about a gigabyte of other media and information, including, I call it the brain booklet. It's like 115 pages on the brain, different aspects of the brain. Yeah, so this is coming forward fully formed, complete. What's happening right now in this moment that we're together is I'm procrastinating doing patent work because it's very mentally intense, but I'm in the process of patenting this framework. But in the meantime, why don't we contemplate the amazingness? So should we discuss bioelectricity? Because I have that book. Let's do it. Hold on, let me get it. Let's get The Body Electric. It's such an amazing book. I also have The Transhumanist Reader, which is about what you were asking. And let me find The Body Electric. Unless it's in storage, which just means that it's in my closet in my hall, I do not feel like going through that right now. The dance of the tune of life. I don't know what that is. We should look at that. Biological relativity. Oh, bummer. I don't have The Body Electric out right now in circulation. Am I lying to you? I just want to make sure I'm not lying to you. Healing developmental trauma. La la, la la la. Metaphors we live by. Yeah, I must have The Body Electric in my hall closet. Oh, my cat just took my chair. Let's go over here. Bio. Thank you. Yeah, well, let me tell you, Denise. You know how sometimes people have strokes and then they get smarter? Pretty sure that's what happened with my stroke. I had a stroke in 2019. I was already quite clever and bright, but I think I had one of those that makes you smarter. And I say that just like from a practical perspective, not from a showing off perspective. But some of what I perceive right now, I could not perceive before I had my stroke. And definitely couldn't perceive before I had cancer at the height of the pandemic all by myself. So part of what this this trinity here is of these planes, when it's in our brain, they're called planes. Transverse, corona, sagittal. As soon as it becomes our body, these are called axes. Transverse, corona, sagittal. So like if we were plotting something like on a graph, this would be the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. And it's taken a very long time of discovery and design and mostly logic testing, because this is all based on information science. It's not really, I'm putting the science where it goes, like a librarian. But I'm pretty sure that how you and I experience the front and back of us has much more to do with our inner ears than it does our eyes. Because our eyes have to do with how we experience what's in front of us, literally. And our eyes also have this quality of anything that's on this side of your view field when you're looking ends up here, and anything that starts over here ends up here. So, and that cross is parallel to the ground. So we have this layered relationship to gravity. Thank you so much. You believe? Well, thank you. This is a model. Okay, it stands the test of pretty much every science, but it is just a model. But you know, this whole thing about believing what we see and being governed, we are really governed by the scores. Not just the body keeps the score, but like, what is the number of the test? How much is the, how much thyroid hormone do you have? The test. How much is the, how much thyroid hormone do you have? What's your heart rate? All of that is occurring through our eyes when we see it. You've been doing Qigong. Yes, Qigong is amazing. Qigong is incredible. As the coronal plane of the brain, or the coronal axis of the body, now that we stand on 2 feet, it's the front end and back end. But when we were still in the ocean or on 4 feet, it's the top and the bottom. This plane in particular. Okay? Animals, which we are one, but we don't think like one. Animals are generally belly towards the earth, back towards the sky. And then where their eyes end up on their head has a lot to do with what kind of animals they are, but also what kind of predator or prey. And we have these front-facing, these are like predator eyes. It's very fascinating. But the inside of us has so much connection from an evolution perspective to everything on the planet that's oriented top and bottom, not front and back. So this, and I think also, okay, I put the Bagua here because it has the quality of the number 8. Our 8th cranial nerve, the 8th nerve in the brain, goes with our auditory experience, the sound experience. And just like the eyes have this crisscross that happens this way, our ears have a crisscross. So anything that comes in from the right side ends up on the left, and anything that comes in from the left ends up on the right, or vice versa, depending upon which way you're standing or, looking at me. The corpus callosum, this is an amazing visualization of it, but the corpus callosum as a structure, this structure right here, its role, its job is right and left, okay? But not only which hand. The cognitive science term is laterality. What's happening on the lateral experience. So our corpus callosum operates like a bird. It gives us a bird's eye view in our eyes. In our ears, it operates like an antenna almost, helping us orient to direction. And then just from a practical perspective, it helps with any time there's a sideness to our movement and our understanding. The corpus callosum is the, let me make sure I'm not lying to you, meaning I think I know a lot, but then sometimes I get confused. I have had neuroscientists tell me that the corpus callosum doesn't matter because you can cut it in half. You can cut the corpus callosum and a human can walk around just fine. Oh, that's nice. That's about as reasonable as you can cut off an arm and a human can just walk around just fine. Like a lot of the ways that neuroscience understands the brain is by cutting it, by slicing it, and very much by slicing the right and the left hemispheres. It is very much. And I love this visualization of it because it has entities. It has these Shen who in part are helping us with that orientation. So seeing, hearing, and orienting. Aligned to transverse, coronal, and sagittal. Well, I'm glad you like it. Thank you for being here. It's a very complicated, complex thing. I tried to keep it, some of these slides get pretty galactic, friends. But I think this is a nice, oh, and you shared the live, thank you. It's just a nice, yay, you got the bundle. So the bundle has a 200-page somatics book that really centers this geometry of the Bagua. Because you see how it has the 3 lines? It's a fractal, so these 3 lines also correspond to these 3 planes in our brain. Planes in the brain, and we have sentience and consciousness and orientation or disorientation and self and all of this that is navigating the world, but also often needs to be guided and to settle onto an experience of ground on the inside. We experience ground on this plane, the transverse. Like literally, that's where the Earth is. That is before we had satellites and digital. You would place a map down on your surface to look at it. So this aligns to this idea of as above. This aligns to this idea of as below, because the corpus callosum literally sits above a lot of this and has some sort of ability to scan and direct. This aligns to an idea called as though. As though is missing in a very big way in a lot of how we're guided into contemplating anything. As though is both how we might experience empathy and like understanding somebody else's lived perspective, but it's also, because of the Bagua, how we experience the dynamics of relationships, space, power, and our own experience. Oh, have I had a root canal? Thankfully not. I did have to have a tooth thing about 4 months ago, and I remember, Jenna, I was like, I've had cancer. I have a very high level of recurrence with my cancer. And I was like, just take out the tooth if it needs to be. Root canals are hardcore. That's a hardcore surgery. I'm going to put some music on, and I'm very grateful that you grabbed one of the bundles. If you're in the United States and you'd like me to send you hard copies of the books, just shoot me an email with your mailing address. I'm going to the post office tomorrow. And then also, if you have problems with the downloads, just let me know, okay? I have a whole Google Drive for just such an occasion. I had a recent customer, just couldn't, it just wasn't working. So let's just make it work. And I got to tell you, $50 for it is absurdly reasonable as far as the price goes. I'm going to increase it soon. Oh, good. Excellent. Yay. Because I'm going to start like advertising on, what's the one where all the skinny girls are on, the skinny yoga girls? Instagram. Am I joking? No, I'm not joking. $50 is absurdly reasonable. Thank you. Yes, coach. So you should grab it and then tell your clients to grab it. Don't give it to your clients. Tell them to buy it from me. Can I tell you, my therapist, oh, so I'm calling it 2 books, 1 library. I'm hoping everybody here is old enough to understand that joke. And it is the book Neuroaffective Somatics and the book Consciousness and Alchemy, along with about a gigabyte of media, including a 5-module self-guided course. The book has, it's ebook, so if you want a hard copy, just let me know. I put QR codes in the book so that you have access to other information that I've given. And there's a 2-hour masterclass on our fascia. It is the real deal. The knowledge is the real deal. Yes. Yeah. So the book is 8.5 by 11. It looks like a regular, hold on. I'm like attached to all this shit because I have a microphone on today. Here we go. This is the book. You've recently been learning academia refers to the aura as the biofield. Yeah. I just did a video, Denise, on CERN, the particle collider. They just turned lead into gold. This is showing you the distinctions we make on the inside, in alchemy on the inside, to turn lead into gold, because from a body perspective, that this alchemy, the alchemy from China, looks at refining, it's called refining elixirs. It's like you're just like getting rid of the soot and the dust. But once you get to a certain level of refinement, you experience something called the golden elixir, which happens right here in this little nest. And that is the lived experience of lead into gold on the inside. Yes, you had to give up traditional, I bet the traditional yoga, if fascia release helps, the yoga might have been aggravating it. The golden pill. So yeah, and the Buddhists call it the diamond body. I never thought that was real. Because you know, a lot of this is myth. But also, in our bodies, the alchemy here, this whole lower third, that has to do with our genitals. And I'm like, I have a uterus. I do not need to worry about some fake pregnancy. It is fusion and fission. The alchemy, however, is fission, not fusion. You fuse the 5 elements in this realm of chi, and the 5 elements have to do with earth, fire, water, metal, and wood. Metal, very important. Metal, this is metal. But fission is splitting the factors, just like the way that our cells divide, is how I understand it. Superposition, yes. Oh my gosh, Denise. So superposition is visualized through this chart, which is a way to visualize our corpus callosum. My YouTube has some videos on this from a year or so ago. I've learned a lot more about physics, so I can start sharing some more. But our corpus callosum, it is the most important fucking part of our brain, okay? Somebody telling me that you can just walk around without it. My goodness me. So here's a page from my book. This is a larger visualization of this chart, and I just want you to see. So the QR codes get you to stuff that goes into this more in detail. But here's your spinal column. Okay. That little bit here, this little shoot, if there were two of these back to back, it would create like a little hole here where you would put whatever alchemy you're in. So you know that alchemy symbol that has the circle and the square and the triangle and the circle? That would go like right behind here. And it's what we see as right and left and how we understand like this is very much not that simple in our brain. So from like a superposition or entanglement perspective, a lot of, and this is me speaking functionally to the brain based on a mapping I've done. Good luck with any of us getting fMRI data enough. I will tell you that the corpus callosum looks like hairs. It looks like a bird. From the side, it looks like a mohawk. This side view of the brain, this is the one where we get the Eye of Ra idea. From Egypt, this is how China did it. So it's same idea, different execution. Right to left, oh my goodness. Oh, that is such a good question. And then I'm going to P. Dyslexia fits in human, like, I believe in that these pathways can be just like naturally occurring in ways that are contrary to how we would actually need to be able to perceive and understand and interpret something. So you get dyslexia, dyscalculia, there's one dysgraphia, I have something like that with numbers. Any kind of neurodivergence, according to Katie, which is just an idea, I believe all neurodivergence has to do with how we experience these pathways. And that if we're experiencing them in a way that doesn't show up on a piece of paper easily or in our lived experience relationally, harmoniously, if we are in the minority, we have to adapt. It's just like when we used to not let children be left-handed. I will, but I have to pee-pee. I have to go to a little girl's room, so I'll be right back. I'm gonna go to the humans' room. Okay, I'm so sorry. But contemplate, there's a lot here to look at. Thank you all. Oh, you kind of get this one. The little map on the right is called the Nijing 2. This translates to the chart of the inner landscape or the inner warp. And it is how the yoga and alchemy that became Chinese medicine, this predates Chinese medicine by tens of thousands of years. I tend to go pretty old school. These can be very much planes of consciousness, but they're also planes of the brain. This one aligns to the concept of Jing, J-I-N-G, or just life, living or dead. This aligns to the concept of Qi, or Qi, which is consciousness. This aligns to the concept of Shen, or sentience. These two, they have a relationship like this inside of us, right? Because this is the X, Y, and Z axis. So this would be, how high is the ceiling? This would be like, are you looking at a mirror, a wall, some information? And then what I did in this over here, bruv, is the base here aligns to yin and yang. The middle aligns to qi at the bagua. This is the I Ching. These are hexagrams. So we have a secret trinity here. This is actually a trine, but it gives the appearance of two. Then we have trigrams, which operate like pyramids. Then we have hexagrams, which is two trigrams. I'm in the middle of plotting a trinity of trigrams so that we can turn it into music. But I also have to sell things, so that's why we're hanging out here today. I think anybody who has taken advantage of that. Somebody had asked about dyslexia and like numbers on the page. 3 Dantian, 1, 2, coach. Coach, do I love you right now? Very much. And can I also tell you that this aligns to the 8 extraordinary vessels. You have dyslexia. Yeah. So let me pull up some notes because, again, just because I know stuff doesn't mean I am not a computer, okay? The brain booklet that I wrote does not have a bunch of citations in it, which is why I just add it as a freebie, because I pretty much did it for myself. But let me find, oh, that's weird. I would think I had dyslexia in there. Strange and unusual. Here we go. Period. Yes, I don't know what that means, but yes. So dyslexia, dyscalculia has to do with when our eyes are looking at something, we don't see it as it is, we see it as our eyes see it, essentially. And the visual cortex in our brain, just from a brain structure perspective, our visual cortex is the corona. So our mind, our seeing, our perceiving experience opens a little bit like a notebook, computer, where this is our visual pathway, and then the cortex is here, and we have this experience of seeing something in front of us. And if that's twisted or confused or somehow misfires, I don't know how all of that actually works, I just understand how it functions, then we might perceive something inaccurately to what is being shown to us on the page. I feel like that's a pretty simple description of dyslexia. My brother has dyslexia. And it's really fucking frustrating. It's very frustrating. It can create a lot of delays in learning because you're confused, not because you're dumb. But also, yeah, when the brain is getting a low-key information overload, maybe, I feel like information overload might be more like the experience or the lived experience of sensory overwhelm. You can speed read. Yes, that's amazing. Our sensory motor cortex is aligned to the coronal plane. It happens like this. Like if you look at the brain, it's like it's like a headband. Sometimes it's called the homunculus. Most of the way that neuroscience understands the brain is as though it's a map that has topography, because it's imaged still. So like all the different areas of the brain are imaged mostly still. When the functional imaging comes in, fMRI, then scientists start to see the relationships between these different areas of the brain, and wouldn't you know, none of it shows up as simply as they like to think. In 2023, the whole sensory motor cortex was remapped, looking at the function of it, and they were like, oh my goodness, look at that, it's so complicated. Have I seen the mice they bred to have neon green mice? No. That's amazing. What? That's pretty cool. Are the three last names? Who are the three last names? The coronal, sagittal, and transverse are those are just like standard ways that you would identify the plane that you're on. Oh, Zitterbart, Escher, Bach are three last names. Zitterbart is my last name. Escher is M.C. Escher, the artist. And Bach is Johann Sebastian Bach, the musician. Here it would go Zitterbart, Escher, Bach. There's a book called Gödel, Escher, Bach, that I based all of this on. And I have to send him a package. I have to send Hofstadter a package. I'm very nervous to do that. I started reading Douglas Hofstadter as a kid. I'm pretty sure he's the reason I'm alive. I'm pretty sure his books helped me navigate my stroke. And I can tell you with certainty, Edward Tufte, who is a data visualizing guy, he's like big data, he trained me for sure. My whole understanding of tensegrity and what I'm calling shentegrity, which is this in alignment, is 100% his teaching. If I didn't have the access that I did at such an early age, I would have died so many times. M.C. Escher, we had prints of M.C. Escher all over the house. All four living, like my whole family of origin were all musicians. My mother, my father, and I each had our own grand piano to play. When you meditate, you shift focus from one side to the other and then the top and the bottom. Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And you repeat till it calms down. That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Do I need water? I need water. Let's go get some water. Yep. See, I'm trying to be like official with the microphone, but I'm so chaotic. So let's make it easier. Sorry. I know that they say that you have to have good mics and shit, but I'd rather be able to move freely. Colors of the rainbow, yes. So the colors of the rainbow, like anything that we can perceive through the regular light spectrum, all of that is happening here. And the thing about light, like just sunlight, light, is when all the colors are present, it disappears. It turns white. We can't perceive it. So it's also like where we would experience mirage. Bach is a metal rock star. I like that. Douglas Hofstadter used Bach because of his fugues. He was very famous for fugues. I know fugues from a different composer, but fugues are also like treading water. Changing behavior in lights using that's amazing, using light stimuli. Can I share with you, none of this is based on light. All of this is based on darkness. Have I investigated how the corpus interacts with dyslexia? No, not yet. You're not familiar with some music terms. Yes, okay, so what is a fugue? I'm gonna define it for you through Wikipedia. The fugue. Oh, and then maybe I'll show you the last piece of music I ever wrote. In classical music, darling, a fugue is contrapuntal polyphonic it's just very, very complex, okay? Complex. And then it uses like repetition of phrases. It creates a kind of entrainment in the sound and also as a musician, where you just sort of get entrained. And in the Middle Ages, it was widely used to denote any works in canonic style. And then in the Renaissance, it changed meaning. Let me play you one. That is Bach's fugue. You think it's how most of us imagine a solution before we get to it? Aphantasia, 100%. 100% blind on the inside I am. 100%. EDM. So yeah, you know what? I used to be a trance fairy in San Francisco when the psychedelic elders were training me in media theory. I was in trance. This Bagua, by the way, this aligns to everything Buckminster Fuller. 100% Buckminster Fuller. This aligns to Buckminster Fuller's concepts on how we live. This aligns, this sagittal, okay, has to do with, I'm going to have to, Denise, I feel like you should be teaching me something. This is amazing. Our lived experience of the kind of balance that the Bagua invites is, oh, okay, plur. I used to hang out with Brian Behlendorf. SF raves. Brian Behlendorf taught me media theory. He's the inventor of the Apache web server and had a lot to do, him and his now ex-wife Laura, with the rave scene. Yeah. So are you another Gen Xer? Yeah. Plur. Woo! Yes! Denise, I lived in Boston for 10 years. Peace, love, university, and respect is plur. And Brian had this company. He's very, very instrumental in digitizing and creating. He did hyperreal.org. Really good friends with the guy who did the Vaults of Erowid, whose name escapes me now, which is one of the first repositories for information, first-person information in psychedelics. But when we were building Web 1.0, we were contemplating consciousness, not data. My job was to make sure the data was planted and seeded such that you would have this kind of experience with it and not get all stuck in the net of supremacy. How do I think the pineal gland? Oh, the pineal gland, this is all pineal. So if we take a look here, the pineal gland is going to be somewhere in there. I don't know. When our eyes register light, not images, but light, when that happens, there is something that turns on. And I don't know, I can't remember what it's called. It has lots of words, but here's what happens. Here is your eyes, okay? The retina, rods and cones, people trying to tell me my rods and cones impact, okay? it says, oh, and then we get this chemical path that goes into our brain stem, down into the spine to the third thoracic vertebra, which is precisely where the base of our heart is, goes right to there, tells our heart to do some things, fascinating, and then it goes up the back and into the brain, and the pineal gland goes, melatonin. And that pathway of the chemicals going through the efferent first and then the afferent pathways is backwards to how our regular, ordinary sensory motor experience happens, which is it first goes through the afferent, through the back, and then to the front. So the pineal pathway, I believe, is the balance. It's like literally in a different direction than the optic pathway. And this chart is oriented pineal. It is not oriented optic. Do I have precognitive dreams? Yes. Don't ask me how my sleep has been the last couple of weeks. If you're interested in like more of this, I'm starting to put write more on LinkedIn, because there are physicists on LinkedIn, and also in my Substack. And the Substack is mostly free. It's following a different path. Your sleep has been affected. Oh, maybe that's what it is, the solar flares. Do I have any information on brain wiring and synesthesia? What? Of course I do. There's a whole chapter in it in the brain booklet that comes with the big package. Synesthesia is the lived experience of cross wires in our senses. So seeing sound, hearing color, tasting numbers. Once again, it is using a topographic map of the brain to say, oh, your sensory motor pathways are not oriented, usually. There are something like 84 kinds of synesthesia. I would say that's just like a factor of human. I have tactile synesthesia as well. Catherine Zitterbart. Zitterbart. Pretty easy to find. I'm the only Zitterbart. I also have a group on LinkedIn, which got really dormant when I had cancer, that I just changed the orientation towards biotensegrity. So I have a place where I can just put stuff like this. But synesthesia is one of the experiences that can happen with deep meditation and certain kinds of substances. And it's one of the reasons I think that somebody like Rick Dobbs with MAPS, Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, it's one of the reasons he's so excited. Sadly, he has forgotten what the fuck he's supposed to be doing. I used to party with him in the 90s. Does being a super taster, probably, yeah. Technochromatic, there's a woman who can see like 2 million colors. She can perceive 2 million colors. Color blindness, I would argue, is a form of synesthesia. So in the, I'm just making an oracle deck now, and the synesthesia card is like very cool and galactic, but I don't know where my draft of everything is. Are these variations of synesthesia as well? Yeah, sure, why not? Well, I do not see on the inside. I only understand, and I understand because I know how these work as far as when our neurons are growing, they grow through these three planes. They don't grow like a decision tree that you would see on a piece of paper, or like an org chart. They grow like vines. And also the nexus, the core, the center, the origin point of a human is at the navel, not in the brain. Just from, like, literally, because we're connected through the umbilical cord. And the whole body develops. The whole body. The first nerve that develops in our brain is the olfactory nerve that goes with our breathing. Does lion's mane? I cannot give any kind of medical anything and be doing this work. It takes me completely out of any scope of practice. So sorry. But I'm a big believer in anything that works. Yeah, I have way too much understanding of medicine and Chinese medicine and all that. So we have to keep it like contemplating and art and ideas. But how do I want to say this? These are also these are the three laws of thermodynamics. But I don't think they add up. I don't think they align perfectly as 1, 2, 3. So let me look at my notes before I tell you. There's a 0th law, by the way. You believe consciousness sits in the pineal. The pineal gland in this chart is implied at this black little dot here is called the upper jade pass of reality. And it creates our optical visual cortex as this big mountain peak, but also from color perspective, okay? This chart is only ever going to occur through pigments and through art and patterns. It does not occur through visible light spectrum. Does not. The green that we get from that occurs when we combine yellow and cyan, because this is a CMY. In the visible light spectrum, light creates green because of blue and red or something create green. It's like really amazing how, like, I go like this. Consciousness is recursive resonance achieving coherent self-reference. Oh my God. It's a fractal dimension. Sure. Consciousness, sentience, life. That's how I have it parsed. And these are 3 different kinds of fires. Fusion and fission. Yeah. So this is water. Oh, I can't. You just got off work. That's lovely. Wait. Reminding you I have a thing you can buy. You go to the place here and you click on the first, and then it's like $50. It's the best $50 you'll spend if you have it. If you don't have it, don't spend it. It's like so valuable. So valuable. What can I say about fractals? This is a fractal. This chart is a fractal. This here is called the star bridge. That is a child. That is the inner child. This is the Milky Way. And the child is fishing with the Big Dipper. The Chinese believe that you have 3, on the top of your shoulders. The way I have been guided into this is belly, heart, and head. Fractal architecture from Africa. I may have, but I haven't noticed it. Fractal is the wave-particle duality. I don't know about that. I don't know. If humans were a fractal, we would be, you know that fractal that has the triangles that become the fractal? That would be us, but we are the golden triangle. We're not equilateral. As above, as below, as though. Learn, live, love. As though. Sierpinski triangle. Thank you. Love that. Yeah, the Sierpinski triangle. We would be the Sierpinski triangle as the golden triangle. How can I bring you into like the physics of this? The physics here is Newtonian. This is relative. This is quantum and astrophysics. How to interact with each plane? Yes. The way we interact with the transverse plane, best way, is to get on your butt and sit and be on a surface. I call it sense of bum. It's the one exercise I had to add to the yoga from China to create a bridge to all things Western. Sense of bum. And what that does is it gets the mind connected to the fact that you exist before the fact that you're a human or a person or a self. If you experience any kind of dissociation, okay, we can answer all kinds of questions about our environment and not be fully present. But if we attune to and settle onto the ground, onto flat land, which is what this is called, flat land. That's a physics term. Also, if we just look at this chart of the inner landscape, look how much weight is at the base. So this chart would exist in the upper part of this experience. Self-awareness is recursive recognition with incoherent reflection. Sure. Love it. Love it, love it. So that's one way to interact with this transverse plane. The other way to interact with the transverse plane is remember that anytime you're looking at a device, you are looking at a mirage, you are not looking at reality. Anytime we read anything on a computer, there is no ground. There's absolutely no gravity, none. That's why we have to be so careful with how we do neural net and algorithm. So the more that you can orient your eyes, not towards ascending to whatever, but rather towards the corona, towards the horizon. The teachings I received from the psychedelic elders and the media theory was that consciousness occurs at the corona. It could. It could. When I was being guided into the tantric practices of this and the breath work and everything, because our heart is on the left, so if I sit on the right, sometimes I'll get like, what's that? If I lean on the right, if lie on my right, like heartburn. You heard it's better to drink water while sitting, sure. But yeah, so flatlanders. So I say we get to flatland first. Each of these planes is flatland. But if we're oriented to the corona, that means we're sitting on the corona. If we're oriented to the sagittal, that means you're sitting on the sagittal. So let's orient to the transverse, because we can't sit on the wall. We're not geckos. We're not spiders. We are bound to the gravity of Earth. We're bound to the ground, bound to the ground. This, by the way, is completely missing in medicine. When we go to the doctor, instead of standing on this plane, they have us lying down on it because they're going to cut us open and do dissections. So the Katie's great contribution to somatics is all I did was stand the human up. But can I tell you, all of polyvagal theory disintegrates. Nervous system regulation disintegrates as soon as the human is standing. And that's a factor of gravity. How to awaken Kundalini. I am not a Kundalini human. This is much more about our experience of water. And Kundalini is about our experience of fire. What do you pay attention to? Gravity. Not light, gravity. So like when I had my stroke and I couldn't walk, I was like, well, I know right where the ground is. When I had my stroke and I couldn't read a sentence, I was like, well, I guess I can't read right now, but I can probably, let my tremoring hands create some art or something so I can see how I'm moving. This is the foundation of whatever model you're in. This is what we're seeing and understanding and perceiving. This is what we're shown, but this is how we are. This, by the way, is the geometry of land back. That's all we're being asked to do, is genuinely reorient back towards the transverse, back towards the x-axis, back towards the... Is she the one that had the stroke of genius? Because yes, quite probably. But Human, I was already a genius, and I had, just so y'all know, I created a theorem in 6th grade called the Cas theorem that we were able to use all year, and I just finished it. I didn't just finish it, but that's part of what I did with my time having cancer by myself during the recovery. Any recommendations for concussion recovery? Depending upon the concussion, I find anything vestibulocochlear to be so powerful. So vestibular therapies, it's more similar to a reset when you sit. You also are mirroring the experience of developing as a human. So when we're injured, especially with like a TBI, it doesn't matter if you're 40 or 25 or 13, some part of us is way back, you go all the way back down to the beginning. In my mind, my consciousness, I call it net zero. Way down. Then how do we get out of that? How does a baby grow? Well, first you have to be aware that you exist. Then we're rolling over, children are rolling. Then they press themselves up like the Sphinx. This is called rostral caudal, this kind of lifting. That's what this is showing, this chart. Then you crawl, right? Then you stand, then you walk. And my lived experience when I had my stroke was they were trying to get me to walk right away. And I was like, could I please just fucking remember where the ground is? Although it was very nice that I could walk, I didn't think I could. I was in so much pain. And my PT, she was like, why don't you just try it as though because it hurts so bad. But she said I wasn't actually harming myself. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And then I was walking. It's not reuse, it's the principles of these symbols that are being included. It seems like there are no new major symbols. There's no need for a new symbol. Absolutely no need. This symbol gets us into the 0th law of thermodynamics, as well as 3 dimensions. This symbol gets us into infinity because it has the quality of 8, but it also gets us into genetics. And then this symbol gets us into epigenetics, And another way to contemplate that is through the I Ching. There's no reason to. Genetics, memetics, epigenetics. Why would we create new symbols? 444. I don't know what that means. I love all this conversation, though. I really do. I'm going to put some music on. Let me see. I just go into, there's this one station on Apple Music called Spa that has really nice, like, sounds like that. In recursive wave mechanics, there is something known as the power of three. If we were also playing with Mr. Tesla, this would be 3, 9, and 6. So as I understand where quantum mechanics fits into this, GeoMiles, it's fully in the realm of this chart, the Nijing 2. And this aligns to the metal element in Chinese medicine, not to ether. You've seen the logo, yeah. So if you speak any of this like physics, this is one way to visualize Lorentz transformations, Hilbert space, kinematic, well, this is kinematic tensegrity. This would be a way to contemplate, I have to look at my notes, sorry. I'm really not a physicist, I just play one on TV. Yeah, so Archimedes' spiral thing, his screw, Minkowski space, Riemann curves. I have a whole bunch of stuff that aligns this to that I wrote on LinkedIn. Nerves are the brain stem. The brain stem in this figure, this chart is here. As nerves, you would then be aligning, this would go with our optic nerve, this is the vestibulocochlear nerve, and these are all 12 cranial nerves. That would be the easiest way to align the nerves. But at that point, we are like just sharing different ways to understand the metaphors. I just like this visualization better because I don't need to look at my brain in parts. My brain is a whole fucking self-organizing thing. The neural network and the heart energy field. So we have 3 neural nets in our brain. This is SPA on Apple. We have 3 neural nets in our brain, 3. The default mode network, which is this. The central executive, which is this. And the salience network, which is this. Holy shit. Can I tell you, I thought I invented like some amazing thing as, this would be Chi. I thought I invented this like amazing neural net thing as a way to contemplate the brain because I didn't know that those 3 neural nets had been identified. They were identified right around 2000. That's when I gave up everything to become a tree-hugging hippie. But this is the default mode network. The orientation of the default mode network, the orientation of the central executive, and the orientation of the salience. So what science thinks our salience network does, by the way, saline is the nature of our spinal fluid. Okay? What science thinks is happening is when we get information into our sensory motor cortex, the salience network goes, this is very simple, it can go to the default mode. This is a little bit more complex, it has to go central executive. So the salience parses into the default mode and central executive. When people are studying divergent brains, especially in autism, they're not so much looking at central executive, they're looking at our resting state in the default mode. Reality is self-organizing. I don't understand reality, but I can tell you that our brains are, and we should be. We're just doing it in a bad way. We're not really self-organizing in a good way anymore. So the default mode aligns to Jing, or life, which is Earth, cosmic Earth, cosmic. The central executive network, that's our, like the heart Taurus that everybody's excited about, that aligns to Chi, or Ki, cosmic fire, specifically fusion and fission, nuclear. That is how we parse the alchemy on the inside. And then the salience network aligns to our corpus callosum and this sagittal. This is where we're all like, oh my goodness, let's ascend to the heavens. Like, ah la la. Sure, our brains, our minds can go so far up, but our bodies cannot do that. Nobel Prize, Nobel Prize, Nobel Prize. If somebody would hire me into their company, I could help them get a Nobel Prize. And I am not saying that lightly, I'm saying that literally. Because my model solves Einstein. So I thought that Einstein had been proven. I thought Einstein's relativity had been proven. So in practice, this Bagua actually governs what's happening here because I'm not an asshole. And the Bagua is special, general, and specific relativity. There is specific relativity. The specific relativity of the first person experience. Physics does not give life to matter. Oh, well, the Nobel Prize is what comes out of World War II. So as physicists, as a column, this would be Newton, Schrodinger, and Einstein. Excellent. This is Occam's razor, astrophysics and quantum physics. And then this is somebody like Carl Sagan, Minkowski specifically, because he has the whole waveform collapse, but the principle is tensegrity, and KDZ. Somebody else could have a different idea. Yeah, so, but anyway, my book gives you like all kinds of, so here's like the meridians, the skin pathway of energy, and then the Shen that animate our organs. And because it would have been so expensive to do this in color, I have QR codes throughout that guide you to media that gives you the color. This is my book I wrote. I wrote this book. And I just published a companion. No, I invented a whole new system, primarily because I didn't want to bring forward something that is called yoga, because I'm a fucking white lady, and this is China. It's not on TikTok Shop. They keep kicking me off TikTok Shop. It's here. It's the first link. It's 2 books, 1 library. So you get the digital immediate of this, plus about a gigabyte of additional information, books, booklets, media, workshops, videos, and stuff. And then if you're in the US, I'll send you the hard copy. Just send me, make sure you have a note with your right address. And I am going to the post office tomorrow. Yes, 2 books, 1 library, somatic alchemy for the inner child. Is 2 books, 1 library? I think that's hilarious. Yes. Yeah. Ooh, look at that. I don't know what that is. That's exciting. Yes, you can get it from Sweden. I cannot mail it to you in Sweden, but you can get it. You can get all the files for sure. I'm just not doing ebooks with ISBNs because I don't want the digital copies in the machine that way. as algorithm, this disrupts supremacy in algorithms, which is also how our mind learns and how our brain grows with neuroplasticity. There's a lot of supremacy in the machine right now. Lots of supremacy. So if we're going to disrupt supremacy, I also have to do it that way. I have to go to the little girls' room again because I've been drinking water. I'll be right back. Yes, so yeah, you can buy it from Sweden. This specific slide isn't in the book, but that's okay. All this stuff is. And then with the download, just so you know, you get the 2 books that I've published that have ISBNs, as well as a yin yoga manual that I wrote for teacher training that I did. But it's yin yoga, so it has body stuff. There's also a brain booklet that's like 115 pages of my notes that looks at the different planes of the brain, the different aspects, as well as things like synesthesia and different kinds of consciousness states. And then the other media is very much guiding into this geometry, this framework, as well as how this is tensegrity. Tensegrity is, somebody had earlier said that physics has this whole rule of 3 now. That's tensegrity. Tensegrity is trines, specifically triangles. And there are some tensegrities that we experience that are impossible geometries in the 3rd dimension. Impossible geometries. There's only one equilateral triangle. There's no equilateral right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. There's no equilateral right triangle. And there's no equilateral obtuse triangle. Thank you. So this is impossible geometry in the 3rd dimension. And the 3rd dimension, as it relates to this framework, is the scale of one whole ass human. Not the scope that we can contemplate and how amazing our minds are, but genuinely, it is not inherent to a human to be able to perceive blood flow unless we're experiencing it or we can feel it in a pulse. This whole brain death occurring at the brain stem, that's in our medulla oblongata. That's the deepest, most automagic part of our brain. You only know that that's on if you're conscious and experiencing it. So part of what I'm trying to do with this is show how amazing and galactic and aligned all of so much is. And at the end of the day, we're just a fucking fancy monkey. We're fancy apes. But we're fancy apes that are related to orcas and pilot whales. So if this is us as a great ape, as the naked ape, this would be us as gorillas, which is like our most recent evolutionary relation. But here, this aligns to orcas and pilot whales because they experience menopause. Gorillas don't. Menopause, not Oppenheimer splitting a fucking hydrogen atom. Don't fuck with hydrogen, man. This is oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon as molecules. And when I'm saying this is that, it's just that that's how everything ended up aligning because I'm applying Feng Shui principles to big data. That's the one easy way to work around the bias, is just to like contemplate the data. I'm very lucky that I had my brain break already, having been in like certain kinds of neuroscience and media theory and cognitive science and political and also I've been teaching and working with bodies and guiding bodies since I was 14 and I'm 56. So y'all are getting like as close to life's work as exists for me right now, and I reduced it to 200 pages that you can read on the toilet, okay? It's a bathroom book. So every page, this operates through meme. Every page is complete unto itself. You can open anywhere and begin. You don't have to start at the beginning. I put all of the tables at the beginning of the chapters because I don't like reading through everything before you get me to the good stuff. Hi, how you doing, Darla? My cat says hi. You're so pretty. My goodness me, look at the pretty girl. The math is too dense. So what I did with the math, Blue and Boar, is I have the math aligned to these different axes based on a geometry that is a 3x3 magic square, 3x3 grid, called the Lo-Shu grid, which has the numbers go in this order: 492, 357, 816. And any way that you add these numbers, any way you add them up, it is 15. I have a course. You get a course with the books. I would love an app. I'm not that kind of developer. But also, just so you know, Human, yeah, I know. This took me 3 years to design, so I have 2 books. I have 80 oracle cards designed. I have to make sure that the mappings of like Western alchemy and Eastern mysticism are aligned. And I'm in a patent process. This is a patentable framework. So yeah. I would much rather be consulting, to be honest. So, but what this book does is it brings you into that geometry such that you can contemplate some of these things as archetypes. And then I've also assigned different archetypes of like human experience to, they're called extraordinary vessels. There are 8 extraordinary vessels that create one whole human. The 9th extraordinary vessel is our belly button. This has been my great awareness. And I got there because I have experienced the golden elixir. Do I do anything with chirality and spirality? Is Lo-Shu 6 and 7. Chirality And then depending upon whether or not it's 6 or 7 is which plane that you're on. This is beyond human design, but human design would fit in here, yeah. I'm contemplating a lot with the chirality, meniscus, convex and concave, convexity and concavity. So like the meniscus here would be the meniscus of Mercury. This would be the meniscus of water. And again, this is nuclear fusion and fission. I'm not a human design attuned human. So let me take a look. So one of the things that the human design does, which I personally think is very dangerous cognitively, truly, is it gives you the circuits and the map and the electronics literally to your body in a way that's contrary to how our pathways are set up. It's one of the reasons this is on the pipeline, which doesn't mean that if you go to it, you are becoming a supremacist, but he's on the supremacy pipeline. What he does is and please tell me if I'm incorrect, he had a moment in the 80s, the guy who designed human design had an awareness. He probably had a golden elixir or kundalini, some kind of experience. My sense is golden elixir is much more complicated than kundalini, just so you know. But he had that experience, and then he did what I did, which was like, how the fuck did I have that experience? We were not designed, that's correct. But some of it is designed because of epigenetics. Right now, we're in a conflict here in Georgia with a person's body being kept on life support. This is our heart. We don't even fucking pay attention to cardiac anymore in medicine. That's an invitation for resuscitation. It's supposed to come through more than one person. He shouldn't have received the whole download. He could have received the whole download. It's just how it gets propagated, okay? And so when I look at these maps, truly, what I see is brainwashing. I see propaganda. I see eyes being forced into a specific geometry that goes to a specific plane of our body. He's only showing us this one. And he's using the fucking I Ching, which Chinese people who are Chinese will spend lifetimes not understanding the I Ching. So, wow, that's pretty amazing. He has archetypes. Are you saying that he only has 4 archetypes? Oh, he has 5. I bet those align to the 5 phases of Chinese medicine and the 5 what are those words? The 5 elements. So human design has investigator, hermit, martyr, opportunist, heretic, and role model. So the opportunist would be fire. The role model would be earth. The investigator is probably metal. Like, I'd have to really read a little bit about this, but the 5 archetypes that he has very definitely would align to the 5 phases of Chinese medicine. The quantum version is more useful. Cool. Love it. Quantum is atomic or less. Epigenetics is a recursive field resonance. So I understand epigenetics culturally. And the parsing of these 3 planes, my friend, genetics, memetics, epigenetics, or genotype, phenotype, epigenotype, but also in this stack, this is called the first ancestry, second ancestry, third ancestry. So when, from like a fertility perspective or a inherited trauma perspective, or if I'm working with somebody who's having like experiences, can contemplate how much you know and understand about your family's history and how that might influence our lived experience. These have to switch in order to do that ethically and without turning into Dr. Moreau, though. You do not fuck with life once it's alive. You don't fuck with Jing. Do not mess with Jing. So many branches. Yeah. But like my page got very exciting over the last couple of days because I said something about that woman in Georgia being, forced onto life support, and the necromancy of it is pretty terrifying. So as it relates to our perceptual experience, this transverse plane, the transverse axis of us, has to do with our eyes and our visual cortex, keeping us parallel to the ground this way. The corona, or the coronal plane, this one that separates the front and the back, this would be interface design. This would be front and back end design. But it's also very much how our ears are oriented, because our ears are sideways, they're not front and back, which turns that into vestibulocochlear. That's the 8th cranial nerve. This is the number 8. Anytime we have a bagua, the alchemist must position earth. And earth is either positioned this way, or this way. This is you in your environment as above. This is you as like an archetype or like a zodiac. So this would be as below. So this creates Earth as a celestial body. This is as though. This is Earth. How do I want to say this? Inherent, apparent, exterrent. So your spleen, where you live, and as a whatever the fuck, celestial body. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here and listening to this amazingly weird galactic framework that I put together. So the whole thing is the Cas theorem. It's based on life, not light. This aligns to ordinary matter, dark energy. Which would also be Einstein. I don't want to tell you the people because I can't give you a person for this. But the what's fucked up here is we just can't experience this in the third dimension and still be alive. Why is it diagonal? Well, we have helical lines in our body. These 8 extraordinary vessels also have connections to our fascia once we're born. And there are connections, fascial connections, meridians, that go from our feet to our head 2 different ways. One is just like the yin and the yang, like going up and down, but the other one is called a link. And it creates a helical cross over us. And we happen to have a cross of fascia on our front body that has a big X which is likely there so that your abdomen doesn't dissemble when you have a pregnancy. Meridians and points you've learned from osteopaths. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of meridians. There are regular meridians, divergent meridians. There are a friend of mine who hopefully will be a coworker soon gave me, turned me on to an advanced acupuncture book, which you might like. Hold on. The meridian, the channel that this is illustrating is called the triple burner or the triple warmer. And that is, hold on. Her name is Cecil Sherman. A-N-N, Cecil, C-E-C-I-L, Sherman, S-H-E-R-M-A-N. So worth the money if you enjoy the galacticness of Chinese medicine. It's one of the best textbooks, one of the best put together textbooks I've ever seen. I'm a recovering tech writer. I might need to take a break here soon. And maybe have some salad and take a shower. Take a shower. When you meditate, meridians, yeah. So you can see why I don't give medical advice, but I do a lot with somatics. I know too much. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm really happy that you've been here. And please, everybody, like, go check out, go here. The first button gets you to my Stan store. It doesn't have a ton of stuff in it right now. There is the big bundle, the 2 books, 1 library. You can just get the 2 books for 20 bucks, just the download. And then there's some ways to like work with me and stuff. And I think I have some art prints as well that correspond to these planes of the brain or axes of the body. But this is where it's at, okay? This is what it's about, man. This chart, this is the best piece of information architecture I have ever seen. This is fully based, this is so tensegrity. And these entities, these Shen, they align to kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So my book, Neuroaffective Somatics, shows you how all of that works. They also align, and I haven't written this up yet, to the 6 sections of our neocortex. These align to different kinds of plasma, degenerate, dusty, radiative, ionic, relative, and EMF, magnetism. This aligns to, it is so amazing. Whoever did this chart, it was like the 18th century. So we already knew, like, we had a whole bunch of stuff already in the zeitgeist, including the taxonomy of species. And here's a way to contemplate it without Darwin, okay? Because he was a dick. He looked around him and said, oh, you must have to suffer. Yes, I have 2 books. I've written 2 books. I have written Neuroaffective Somatics, and I've written Alchemy and Consciousness. $200 pages, including like 35 yoga poses, and different kinds of ways of contemplating your body bagua. I relate each of these trigrams to your different body systems, nervous system, immune system. Yeah. So if you go here, the first link will take you to my Stan store. There's a $45 bundle, which is the best deal because you get like a gigabyte of media with it. And I'm going to raise the price here in about a week. Or you can just get the bundle of these for 20 bucks, digital. If you get the big bundle and you want me to mail you a hard copy, just leave me a note and I'll mail you hard copies of the books. I'm going to the post office tomorrow. And I know it should be and could be a lot more, but hey, guess what? There are a lot of people who need this shit who can't afford it. So let's just like have it be reasonably priced. I want to have a way to make TikTok be less expensive than the rest of the world too. So I have to figure out that. I feel very at home on TikTok and very not at home on like Instagram. So I'll probably do some sort of something on Instagram that's more expensive. Yeah, but it's just so amazing. You're so welcome. I really appreciate that. I figured out how to communicate how I survived. It's not linear, but can I tell you, Christ Sophia, I have a whole new taxonomy of species based on sentience. Sentience. Let me show you what it looks like. This is what I'm sending to some physicists who really helped inspire this work. This is a taxonomy of sentience using the elements of Chinese medicine. And this double fire element that we have in Chinese medicine and the, alchemy, no Darwin. These are the first visualizations I did of like, how could we contemplate birth, being, and beyond without actually existing? Trees and rocks hold wisdom. So that's wood. The domains are, well, the realms are the extraordinary realm of the Nijing 2. The ordinary is mammals that menstruate, and then the imaginary is Shen. Then domain, which is actually what you get first in the taxonomy of species. You go to kdz.com, and the first link takes you to my Stan store. The first button, the first option is 2 books, 1 library. If you're in the US and you want a hard copy of the books, just let me know and I'll mail you hard copies of the books. But this is a way for me to make it globally available. And with the 2 books, 1 library, you get a gigabyte of media. So the wood element, we have heaven, human, and earth. Heaven, human, and earth. The extraordinary kingdoms, qualia are particles. I have to write all this up. Observation, S-H-E-N, are the waves. Motivation, S-H-E-N, are the nodes. Shen is the lived experience. T-I-O-N is the definition. That's kingdom. Phylum has to do with the back end. And that is the 12-storied pagoda, which is here. Those are our 12 cranial nerves, but also zodiac, all of that. We have this low shoe geometry, 1 through 9, which I don't have here right now. And then the child on the bridge is fluid. Classes, I lied, those were classes. It's the order of the Bagua. So kingdom, phylum, class, order of the Bagua, because the default setting is Einstein, not Katie. And that aligns to A, DNA, which is 48 chromosomes, or gorillas. B, DNA, which is humans who have 46 chromosomes. And Z, DNA, which are orcas and pilot whales, which have 44 chromosomes. So now we have a way to model, to contemplate chromosome 2 without having to cut anything up. I was really excited when somebody told me about that. And then the family is family constellations and like internal family systems. There's a lot of psychology in here as well. These are the genetics. This is my version of alchemy. It's based on, what's that? Carbon and H2O. Zitterbart Escher Bach. This is that 9. This is memes. And this is epigenetics. I guess I should send this out now. Internal family systems. Oh, do we not like it? IFS? I'm all for IFS. This is what the geometry of human looks like on this 3x3, contemplating triangles and tensegrity, different kinds of tensegrity, kinematic, positional, form finding, dynamic, modular, and it's a ranked system because these are not in numeric order, but these cells don't exist in the third dimension. That's where we get all fucked up at the doctor. Then I made art for everything because I had to do it with art first. My friend Vika is a neuroscientist who doesn't think I understand physics. Okay, so this is Gödel, Escher, Bach, Katie's version, Zitterbart, Escher, Bach. This is the biotensegrity column, shentegrity column, tensegrity column. This is a very dynamic. Oh my God, here's Katie's version of epigenetics based on the zeroth law of thermodynamics. It's very, there's a lot going on there. Here's predictive processing, where I accurately predicted Desi's discovery having to do with dark matter and lambda CDM, whatever the fuck that is, the constant in the universe. I didn't do it on purpose. But here is, these are the symbols that I put together. This is where the planes of the brain correspond to dark energy, dark matter, regular matter. And these are the 3 classes of physics that the astrophysicists had to use in order to understand their own data because it didn't operate the way they thought it would. Of course not. You're not fucking God. Nothing that we see that's 8 billion light years away is something that we're perceiving as we are or as it is. It is media. All media is mirage. So I did this whole thing based on the concept of mirage to account for Escher. My pattern, I'm building patterns. I'm creating them. Yeah. Yeah. I unmasked my autism as well in this process. Can I tell you, not a fucking single human who knew me before wanted to look at this. This is the corpus callosum right here. The corpus callosum is white matter. Let me get you a neuroscience. And I'm just going to look at Wikipedia because it's so good. Please, please, if you are still using Google and stuff, and you can, when you look for like a definition of something, if there's a Wikipedia, go to Wikipedia. It's a great way to start learning about a subject. It's not very beautiful. It's pretty simple, but it's like a group thing. Yay, thank you. The corpus callosum is a nerve tract of fibers that is only found in placental mammals, only if you grow in a placenta. It has the quality of helping us do, yes, they're totally real, Thomas. I'm sorry that Thomas is, I'm not talking about neuroanatomy though. I'm talking about functionality. So our corpus callosum you could also just find me on Substack and LinkedIn. They hate your depth and pattern awareness, yeah. I would also suggest, Thomas, you look up the SCAN brain discovery from 2023 that remapped the whole sensory motor cortex. And ask yourself, is your neuroanatomy? Oh, that's not proof? What do you want? Do you not like that this is a different way of looking at something and it makes you feel threatened because I'm a middle-aged lady? Do you not like that I fully intuited the default mode, central executive, and salience networks of the brain and have a way to contemplate their correct alignment to gravity through the optical, auditory, and corpus callosum tracts? I'm not claiming any of this to be true. I'm sharing a model. The GATE program. I was not in the GATE program. I was not in the GATE program. No. But this is our corpus callosum. This visualizes the corpus callosum. My view, gravity. Gravity is given. Gravity. We should be defaulting to gravity, not to light. We do not need light to be alive. We need gravity for life. We gestate upside down and backwards, mimicking and mirroring the way that images land on our retina. Grounded, yeah. But neuroanatomy is neuroanatomy. This is not neuroanatomy. I'm so sorry to tell you. Yeah, I would love to have somebody challenge me on this though, but not in the way that you are. So the alignment, back to the physics, as a column, okay, entropy, negentropy, Einstein. As a column, Carl Sagan, astrophysics, however you want to understand it, Minkowski space, kinematic tensegrity, and the number 1, which is n to the 0. Here is Occam's razor, but also dynamic tensegrity in all things. What's that word? Mirage, which also includes astrophysics, quantum physics, and evolution. You've been curious, you've been wanting to continue different phases of consciousness. Yeah. I still don't understand how physics defines a phase. However, China defines the 5 elements as phases. They're called the 5 phases. I don't mind being challenged, but it's just like, I'm not talking about neuroanatomy. I'm talking about neuroscience, cognitive science. I wonder if our friend who passed their neuroanatomy test understands what blending is with media. Wonder if you understand what our own lived experience, the double slit is, just in our visual and mental cortices, but probably not. But I do like that you have a frog, a mouse, and a thingy. I like that you have a frog, a mouse, and a thingy. Well, so the theory is not a theory, it's a theorem, the Cas theorem. And the Cas theorem is gravity is given. And then it is based on navigating this specific flat fractal, which is 9 to the 9th, which is 1 power of 10 away from the number of stars in the sky, without any math, just by contemplating. Oh, yeah. Well, Thomas, I probably know a little bit more science than you do. Probably. Latin is not the only language, and it can become a real barrier to understanding and seeing different views, because Latin is the language of science, but it's also the language of law. The laws of men. Well, I don't really need to know more than you, Thomas. do I? I'm the one who wrote the books. I'm the one who went to Carnegie Mellon. I'm the one who built Web 1.0. I'm the one who received media training by psychedelic elders so that I wouldn't turn you into a supremacist when I got you to spend money online for the first time. I'm the one who grew up in the opera and theater and music. I'm the fraternal twin. I'm the one who had the stroke. What the fuck proof do you want? I'm not making any claims. I'm showing a way to contemplate gravity. Do you understand what gravity is, Thomas? Do you know that the brain is contemplated as having three planes? What I'm saying is, transverse plane aligns to the optic, coronal plane aligns to the auditory, sagittal plane aligns specifically to the corpus callosum, which is much more compound complex than anybody thought ever. But neuroscience doesn't think it matters because we have had a lobotomy, a hemispherectomy, and a corpus callostomy, all of which have been successful, all of which cut the brain. Go fucking follow me on LinkedIn. We're looking at art right now. Thomas is having a moment, okay? It can be really threatening to see something like so simple. Auditory, it's not connected to, I understand our auditory cortex as being aligned to how we experience this, the corona, which is everything in our brain that is forward and behind our optic chiasm. So the optic chiasm is the location of where our optic nerves cross. So anything that comes in on this side of your visual field lands here. Anything that comes on your cortex here lands over here. And then our visual cortex itself, if we look at this little brain here, it goes like this. It opens up like a book, so that the visual cortex is very much like a movie screen in the mind. But we have two pathways. We have the pathway of seeing and we have the pathway of light. And the pathway of seeing is literally just what we're looking at. The pathway of light has to do with our pineal gland. And my general disposition is, now that we're digital, we have a blending happening at the corona where like physics says that they have a 3D model of something and then they show us a simulation in a computer. That's not a 3D model. Even if you can make it look like it's moving around an axis, anything digital is at most 2D. So we need to have 3 dimensions in order to both perceive and navigate. And something that's going on all the time, okay? Look what happens here when I stop mirroring my computer. So this is the easy way for me to be in front of this because I'm looking at myself in a mirror, but you'd be looking at a mirage. So in order for me to instruct this accurately, I need you to perceive me as though we're in a room together, which means I have to get better, right? So this is right, but it's my left hand. This is left, but it's my right hand. And that kind of mirroring is something that's occurring at the corpus callosum. And this is something that's pretty much just gone because of front-facing cameras. So, yeah. But I don't know what kind of proof. It's just a fact. It is a fact that this is what our auditory cortex is organized as. It is a fact that our ears are on this side of us. It is a fact that our vestibulocochlear nerve is helping us to experience the fluidity of our pathways, of the tunnels in our inner ear of which there are 3, by the way, that absolutely correspond with these 3 planes, right? And that's helping us stay oriented. This visual half, or which one? Is this one you're asking about? This is called the Neijing 2, Neijingtu. The yin and the yang. Okay, so my model is based on gravity. It's not based on light. And as gravity goes, yin and yang has the most to do with flatland and life itself, with the transverse plane. Once we get off of flatland, we have a more dynamic and aerodynamic experience of our environment, and we have a more aerodynamic way of orienting. So as increasing complexity, the yin and the yang align to the transverse plane. This, as our corpus callosum, or you could also contemplate the I Ching, aligns to the sagittal, which has to do with the y-axis, or like the upper bound, the upper limit. And then the coronal plane of the brain, or axis of a thing, is the like the walls, the media that we're looking at, windows we're looking through. This is where we try to explain to people what our experience is. And if it doesn't map to like either or make perfect sense on a piece of paper, we have problems. So the model, Thomas, is based on biotensegrity specifically. And then I have 9 different kinds of tensegrity. I just said that. So I will say it again. The transverse plane of the brain. Chakras have to do with our nerves, with the ends of our nervous system. Biotensegrity. Tensegrity like Buckminster Fuller dome. Biotensegrity specifically to the fascial lines in our body, but also all the trinities in our body. So if you just finish your neuroanatomy, the dura mater, pia mater, and arachnoid mater as a bundle are biotensegrity, with the dura mater and the pia mater being more fixed and the arachnoid mater being more fluid, more dynamic. The base of us, the base of our spine, and the top of our spine are more fixed than the fluidity of how we experience our organs and how those move. So the tensegrity of a human, the transverse and sagittal are more fixed. The coronal is more fluid. So as archetypes, biotensegrity, tensegrity, shen-tegrity, where shen is sentience. So biotensegrity is the word for the geometry of life, how living systems organize and self-organize. And you'll see that this isn't unscientific. This isn't misinformation. The pineal gland, the pathway of the pineal gland in this image would be that the eyes perceive and experience, or why don't I just show it to you here? So the eyes go, oh yeah, light exists. Then the pathway goes down the efferent, down the front, through the brain stem to the 3rd thoracic vertebra, which is right here in this chart. That's where the base of the heart is. Heart gets some information, I don't know, I don't remember, and then it goes back up the efferent path, it goes backwards, and then up to, oh sure, into the center of our brain. Yeah, I'm very happy to. Let me just find some for you. Anything that I'm using that is peer reviewed, I have a rule that it has to be open source, so like anybody can get it. Quantum consistent, analytic integration and structure of, oh wait, no, that's not that. Hold on. La 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 la, quantum meridians, different thing, looking for stuff. Let me see what I have here. Oh, I think that goes over here. I'm just looking to see what I have like right in front of me right now. Quantum meridian. This is my writing on the quantum field coherence and the meridians of Chinese medicine. And in that, I am looking at modeling meridians within the quantum field, Brisnick and Chapiani, 2018. We could look at la 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 la. Is this it? Nope, that's my book. What else do I have? I'm just looking for what I have right in front of me, not for like whatever. I don't see a lot of papers in my downloads folder right now. I must have moved them when I published the book so that I could, the Jinglao Network, an overview of channels and collaterals. We have, I just published on epigenetics, resonance, and the recursive body, I wrote an article, maternal prenatal stress induces sex-dependent changes in transfer RNA, fragment families and cholerogenic pathways in newborns. What else have I used? I think you're going to find more of that if you look to me on the LinkedIn, just to be honest with you. And then, of course, tons of textbooks. Where else are we here? I have a whole 5th law of thermodynamics, but that'll make people angry since everybody can't even handle fucking equilibrium. Waves, hold on, where is my quantum meridian? There was a recent article on the quantum meridians. It's so fascinating. That's not, in 2019, hold on, this takes me elsewhere. There we go. Oh no, that's what that is. For books, you could also look up Theodore Adorno and Michel Foucault. No, it's completely correct to question whether or not I'm looking at peer-reviewed information. I just don't have it like all right next to me to say, here are the peer reviews. Because I don't really operate that way. Like once it's there, it's there. Here are some, oh, here we go. Hold on. My genetic harmonic grid. Quantum field, the role of extraordinary. Nope, that's not, that is me having an opinion. La 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 la. People are getting bored, I know, I'm sorry. There's a philosopher physicist who I don't agree with all the time, but he writes a lot about this, named who wrote the Tao of Physics? Friedrich Capra. He writes a lot about systems as well. This is very much also complexity. So anybody writing in the field of complexity theory, consciousness, flat consciousness, the mind is flat, the brain is flat, that's going to be there. All things Edward Tufte will be in here. Let me, oh, I have to look at this like that. No, that's not that. I think that's all I feel like looking for right now. I'm truly just looking to see what else I have just sitting around. Ears and eyes, cochlear, electromagnetic spectrum, plasma. I think that's as much as you're going to get out of me right now, whoever asked me for that. I did not do a good job of putting these in one thing. Can anyone here tell you what the last image is? This last image here is called the Neijing 2, Neijing-tu, Neijing 2. There's a, but if anybody's really interested in how I'm understanding our sensory motor cortex, there was a study published in 2023 called the Scan Brain Discovery. One moment. I think I should have that. Oh, no. And what the Scan folks did is they identified how much more complex our sensory motor cortex is than originally thought, because they looked at it through functional imaging. Oh, catalyzing emergence. No, that's just a philosophy paper. All things affective neuroscience. I'm looking at an encyclopedia. That's not that. White matter. The white matter tracks in the corpus callosum. Yeah, so I mean, I'd say I'm like looking at stuff. Prediction in autism spectrum disorder, a systemic review of evidence, the lymphatic system and central and cerebral spinal fluid, lymphatic system and central nervous system health and disease. We have good food, bad bodies. We're looking at cognitive science. That is not that. DMRI. Diffusion MRI and its role in neuropsychology, stuff like that. I read. Look like pictures moving. So this is very much that. Yeah. If you think about one of the ways that the vagus nerve gets translated is as the wandering nerve. So this is a visualization of that. This is a zebra. Okay, this is neurodivergent. This is a 18th century chart from China that speaks to alchemy and yoga that is 20,000 years old. You say, Katie, here's my address. Make sure you send me a thing. And I'm going to the post office tomorrow. Unless I'm like really sick or something. I have chronic illness. I'm what's the word? Disabled. Oh, here it is, the new brain discovery. So there was a new brain discovery connecting mind and body called the Scan Brain Discovery. It happened in 2023, and it is just more complex. It's always more complex. Always, always. Did that answer your question on how to get the hard copies? So it's 2 books, 1 library. Somatics for your inner child. Is the pudendal, all nerves are in my model, but I have not contemplated the pudendal nerve specifically. Is that the trigeminal neurology? Oh, it is not. So the nerve that you just asked me about, I am teaching about it in a couple of months. The nerve that Tricholyte just asked is the nerve that has to do with our base experience and how we experience probably both pain and pleasure in that sensation. The inner alchemy, so when you get my stuff, there's the healing smile, 6 healing, there's just some like real simple practices that also I'm often sharing on here on lives. And one of the purposes is to build a neutral relationship to how we experience arousal in our pelvis so that we can cultivate some sort of a temperate and responsive pattern in how we are with that. That's like a nice way for me to say it. So as it relates to this transverse plane, for example, if you have a peen, the primary lesson is to have a separation in your experience of the wave of completion and the emission of substance. It's called seminal retention. And the thinking of that from the Chinese, and obviously that's not your optics, but the thinking of that from the Chinese is the scrotum have to reproduce sperm. So why ask your body to do that? Why not sustain it and then experience the pleasure? This is not weird incel bullshit. This is honoring Jing, honoring the all that we have. If you have ovaries, we are not bound to that because ovaries contain every egg possible that could ever be emitted in any period. So the bias is towards the uterus specifically, and the uterine experience of fullness and menstruation and pregnancy, the uterine experience of being this like amazing, strange organ that can grow a whole other human. Thank you. Did you just send me a note? Let me make sure. Hold on. Yes, I got your address. Yeah. And I might throw in just like, you're going to get the divination book as well. Thank you for supporting this. I really appreciate it. I do. So I write like a technical writer. These are very much resources. And then hopefully the other media that you get access to through the downloads, but also through the QR codes is a little bit less like that. Like that. I am gonna need to take a break here though. I'm feeling the, how is divination? Oh, divination isn't scientific. It's divination. It's not scientific. However, when I am positioning concepts in the framework that I designed, I'm using this as the template such that this is Schrodinger, or let me give you the physics for it. Entropy, negentropy, gravity, n to the 0, chirality, spirality, Occam, that is life itself, and the number 5 stands for kinematic tensegrity, or homeostasis. Solo Women's Symphony. Oh, I like that. Yeah. So what this book does is, this is truly just a way for me to be transparent in how I'm contemplating these concepts and assigning them to things like father wound, mother wound, DNA. So like from a DNA perspective, This is paternal DNA, maternal DNA, mitochondrial DNA. 369 here, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen. And so just contemplate this like a flat fractal. It's a library science more than it is a other stuff, but there's plenty that goes. Plenty. Lots and lots. They all total 15. They all total 15. So what happens is, if we're in the Bagua and you were to put the Bagua, the numbers in a grid, it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The middle is empty. That's what this is here, okay? But then I discovered this. You don't need to know which way is north. You don't need to know how much of anything there is. All you need to know is if it's a 4, it goes here. If it's a 5, it goes here. However, as base numbers, 4 aligns to Altair. This is Deneb, Vega, and Altair. This is base 60, base 10, base, hold on, I have to look. Base 60, whatever the whole genetic thing is. And then the bottom is base 8, and this is base 43. But I don't have everything all together all the time, because this is based on thermodynamics and avoiding Oppenheimer. Avoiding the outcome of Oppenheimer. How could like clean energy be a thing? How would we contemplate it outside of nuclear? Well, you have to contemplate it through concepts and art. You can't contemplate it through actual fucking nuclear devices. Like, that's not me, okay? Not at all. And this is coming from a thing called Neidan, inner alchemy. I'm sure you're lost, Eliza. So what we're talking about here right now is these planes of the brain, and I'm just about to jump off, but just to get you oriented. When people image our brain gets imaged 3 different ways. It gets imaged from the top down, that's called transverse, that's what this is. It gets imaged sagittally, or like from the side, that's what this is. And then it also gets imaged as the corona, or coronally, like from the front. And we have different experiences that just naturally kind of align to it, which I have positioned. And what I'm suggesting is our eyes are aligned to the transverse. They're aligned to keeping us oriented this way. Our ears are aligned to keeping us oriented this way. And our corpus callosum, which is visible here, has to do with any right and left or sidedness that occurs while we're living and experiencing movement. Okay. Girl going down. And by girl going down, I mean probably having some gardening. Fixed point attractor dynamics, unity consciousness. Honestly, my primary contemplation is strange attractors. And this is scalar, but I contemplated a scope. Well, as humans, this would be Oppenheimer and Heisenberg. So what I did with this, okay, there's a reason that China almost never uses a number. It doesn't use numbers in acupuncture. It doesn't use numbers in positioning things. It doesn't use numbers. So why does this use numbers? And because this is the same all the time, what I did, just so y'all know, is I created this such that the Bagua, this number 8, is always only E equals MC squared. Because fuck if I'm gonna fuck with your genetics. E equals MC squared. Assuming Einstein's always right, I was able to parse a lot of physics and just position the concepts aligned to many things. I had to learn fucking astrophysics to do this, but it's based on it's based on life. It's based on what can a human perceive without tech? What can we really like understand? We have this global perception. We can see our planet from above because of satellites. And then we think we understand. That means you have no understanding of what that means. If it was understanding, the astronauts wouldn't cry when they see it. Anybody who has done global logistics, I've done global logistics, if you've done, when we were wiring the planet, this was also, if it's too complex, how about transverse, coronal, and sagittal, length, height, and width. Does that make more sense? If Einstein had different technology, his model would have been a cube instead of a square. So I've just cubed it. Ooh, I do use my narcissist. Oh, you think I'm narcissist. Thank you. When somebody calls me out on my BS, all alchemy is inherently BS. That's accurate. But this is anatomy. Are you saying that it is not a fact that we have a visual cortex? Are you suggesting that our visual cortex is aligned to the sky and not the horizon? Are you saying it is not a fact that we have an auditory cortex? Are you saying it's not a fact that our ears are on our sides, not our front? The physical requirement for this is to be a species that experiences menopause. So, I don't know, maybe you don't experience menopause. Neurodivergence is a made-up term, but yeah, it just means that we're within, what, like 2 standard deviations or something over the curve of horizontal, yeah. Horizontal, vertical, coronal, X, Y, Z. It's also not Euclidean space. I'm not really sure I understand what that means because I don't do math, but this is non-Euclidean space. The plottings, though, tend to be Cartesian. That I know for sure. That I know with certainty. So from a discipline perspective, and then I am going to go, genetics, memetics, epigenetics, or genotype, phenotype, epigenotype, or patrilineal, matrilineal, mitochondrial. Can I define Cartesian? That's the one where you have 3 plots in space in order to find something in a sphere, if I'm correct. Let me make sure. It's a plane that each point is uniquely, oh, that's all it is. Cartesian is the cardinal directions. But you can also do it in 3D space. So like in a sphere, the way you find something in a sphere is you need 3 things. It's just like geolocating on the globe. So in order to locate you and me on the planet, you would need to know not only the latitude and longitude, but also the altitude. So like a really good example of that is a project I did with phones, where this company wanted to have it such that you could just hit a panic button on your phone and it would call 911. And I was like, it's not gonna work because 911 won't know where you are in the building. And of course they didn't believe me, so I found somebody from AT&T and we had a conversation. But at the time, the tech of 911 was street maps. And so if you're on the 30th floor of a building, all your phone says is that you're at this coordinate. So to get off of flatland, to get into dimension, you need a third thing. You need 3 points to measure, to locate. It's how RFID works overall. It's also like how we would build different kinds of taxonomies. 2/3 points intro. Ooh, I don't know what that means. Pythagorean? Maybe, yeah. But also, human-like people, there are tensagrities that don't exist in the third dimension. Tessellations don't exist in 3D. Positional tensagrity requires other things. So the 9 archetypes of tensagrity, and then I will leave you, are biotensagrity, dynamic tensagrity, hierarchy, form finding, kinematic, tessellated, positional, knowledge-based, and modular. Angles and lengths. Yeah, but let's remember, okay, we have more experiences than there is the ability to measure it in 3D. But that's because I go by life, not light. I like that I was called a narcissist. Thank you. It is very narcissistic to invent something, isn't it? Yeah. Especially, like I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna put my name on this. How can I know for sure I'm not being an asshole? Well, I just had to keep going to physics and not like even the social sciences. So the politics I put in, because nothing is without bias, the politics of this are biopower and the negative dialectic. And these are 2 ideas that came forward after World War II. This is what I studied in at Carnegie Mellon. So when the prison industrial complex was becoming the prison industrial complex, this French philosopher named Michel Foucault gives us this idea of biopower, which aligns here. And biopower is how can we use our life against the oppression, against the system. Foucault also gives us the idea of a panopticon and different kinds of surveillance and the ways that we change our behavior based on actual or perceived surveillance. This is something that we're experiencing real time right now. The second one, which I think is even more important, is the negative dialectic. So a dialectic is synthesis, antithesis, or thesis, antithesis, synthesis. It always comes together. Negative dialectics don't close. And it happened because of this guy, Theodor Adorno, realizing there are some categories we can't escape. We're always going to be, I'm always going to be white. I will always have been born in the zip code I was born. You will always be whatever you are. And so any kind of consciousness, like class consciousness, which got Marx all excited, Adorno was like, that's not really feasible in action because we cannot escape some things. And the negative dialectic is also a way to create algorithmic and logarithmic growth. Should we worry on the tone? Oh, I don't know. It's impossible to know for sure. I definitely sound one way, I'm sure. I'm tired and hungry right now. Seeming erratic, emotionally social conditions. That can happen. That's where we get this idea of masking, right? Not being allowed to express your emotions. I can understand that. Yeah. I'm so sorry if it feels like I'm like pushing you off, Zach, but I need to stop and take a shower and eat something that was recently alive, like some lettuce, like a whole head of lettuce. But I will be back. I'm back often. And since folks have been asking for the peer reviews, I'll see if I can just pull some stuff together as I'm just like relaxing tonight. I'll take a look at what I have in my files. The persona we put up. Yeah, so the claim I am making is this is one way to contemplate. That's all. You don't have to agree with me, but it is a fact that we have a visual cortex. It is a fact that we have an auditory cortex. It is a fact that we have corpus callosum. They are aligned this way. And these are the general dispositions of the default mode, central executive, and salience networks in our brain. That is neuroscience. I'll see ya. Bye.